I'm Jeff Treuhoft, and I'm founder and CEO of Zetta. We set out a little more than 2 years ago to try and simplify enterprise storage. Like many of you, we've been customers of the storage industry for more than a decade and had been buying hardware and software products and scaling out environments inside IT departments for many years to many petabytes in scale, and weren't really satisfied with that experience. Always felt we were at risk to data loss, always felt we were at risk of providing a lack of availability to applications. And we saw a unique opportunity based on both what was happening around the term cloud, what had been happening around distributed computing, the strength and the resources provided by the underlying processor and drive technologies, to take a different approach. And we've really focused on trying to help that IT person who is responsible for storing and managing data inside the enterprise figure out a way to solve that storage problem. Today, they mostly have two choices. Whether you're a service provider or an MSP trying to build a service platform, or you're a corporate IT department, you really either have to buy enterprise storage arrays, NAS or SAN devices, or you can buy software, try and build storage out of software, use open source file systems and COTS hardware. In the case of the former, when you buy an enterprise array, it comes as a managed device. You get all these features packaged in a nice, tidy solution. It's expensive, it's time consuming to purchase and deploy and provision and manage. But it's what everybody knows, and so it tends to be the most comfortable decision that people can make if they're trying to keep growing their data set. Recently, I'd say going back about 2 or 3 years, you have a whole series of products that have come out that focus on the object storage model. And using cheaper drives and cheaper data paths, they found a way through eventual consistency and other relaxed mechanisms to provide the ability for you to store files and get files in simple ways using a REST API. And they do that very cheaply. They offer relatively cheap storage. But the problem became for most IT people that they could not understand what that was. They looked at it as sort of a platter out of the middle of a hard drive that they were getting, and it looked cheap, but when they went to go use it, it was really something that didn't work for their existing business requirements. It didn't fit into the workflows they were using to manage their IT data. They liked the fact that it was on demand, that it was flexible, that it was cheap, but just didn't have the feature set. And that's where we focused. We combined all the things that you get in an NAS device today: snapshots, replication, RAID protection, security at rest, all the things that an enterprise looks at as touchstones to make sure they can store and protect their data, we provide, but we do that in an entirely on-demand way. And we allow the customer to provision in minutes, pay for what they use, grow and shrink their volumes as much as they want. We have native access to all of the enterprise protocols like NFS and CIFS at our edge. So they have a great degree of comfort that they can integrate this quickly, that it's plug and play with their existing applications, and it just works like their normal storage works. It's just they don't have to deal with the mess of the physical infrastructure anymore. Where we're seeing most of the demand today is in primary file server, storage bursting, and active archive type applications. Some of these other use cases are definitely things we get hit up for on a daily basis, but those are the ones that we're seeing really folks dig in and get started with and start loading data, at least into our service. The database problem in terms of remoting that across the internet has time, distance, and latency issues. So it's also an emotional decision for most enterprises where their transactional database isn't the first thing they were looking to give up. So over time, we may optimize our service infrastructure more for 4K transactional writes and database loads. But today, we're really focused on that tier 2 storage problem, the sort of thing that NAS and SAN systems are used for today in file data, dealing with file data. And that's where you really need a file system semantics and POSIX are required. And you want strong consistency. Your applications already expect that they can write something and then read it right away. As I mentioned, we had to figure out a way to do this in a way that had never been done before, because in the late 90s, a bunch of companies called storage service providers were funded by the venture industry, and none of them are around anymore, not even under different names. And it's because what they tried to do was buy products from known storage vendors and host those in data centers and sell them to customers. And that doesn't really work. So what we did was we built an entirely new file system starting back in late 2007, and it was really built for the problem of distributed computing and using those principles of distributed computing to change the way file systems work. And so we have the ability to make sure that we can natively support at our edge those protocols, but do that very efficiently in a scale-out way, protecting the ability to be multi-tenant, protecting the privacy of each customer's data virtually all the way through the data path, and still scale through the challenges of what happens when you have 1 petabyte or 10 petabytes or 50 petabytes of data and you hit the hard error rates of these drives and have to deal with rebuilds and data integrity problems inside the system. We offer a web management interface that people sign in and use. It's like a modern NAS system. Most of them have a pretty developed place where you can go trigger snapshots, manage replication, things like that. We also have a level of transparency that we give inside our system so that it's almost like you're logging into your own box and you can see drive level events and also see a lot of system information that is sometimes very opaque when you're trying to use some of the other object storage services. We also simplify the purchasing process, so we don't have to build a bill of materials, we don't have to negotiate around drive covers and connector shields and all those things. You just get the whole thing for one price, like you get in the object storage model. We don't make you pay maintenance fees or things like that. We provide the technology protection, so we're constantly updating with the latest drive technologies. And it starts at 25 cents per gig per month, and that's for a 1T minimum. And if you commit to longer term or larger volumes, we discount from there. Last thing I'll say is that unique to us, we believe, is that we started the company, my other co-founders are a mix of people who have run IT inside large enterprises and people who have invented foundational technologies in the distributed computing space. So we're not just an engineering company, and we're not just a service operations company, we're a combination of both. It was like that since the founding of the company back in 2007, and we've been hiring against that plan and building that culture internally. Hard thing to do. Any of you who've run both always know that they like to point fingers at each other and say, it's not my code, oh, it's not my process. So we've got a lot of work that we've done to integrate this as a service and offer that back up to our customers. So we're out there at this table, and we're online at Zetta.net, so come find us if you need help with your storage. Thanks.